Welcome. Take it up with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Rivka Little, who is the head of marketing at Socure. Hi, Rivka.
Hi, Jessica.
This
Thanks
is
for having me.
I'm delighted that you're here. Thanks for flying all the way from New York to be on the show. I wanted to bring you here because you're in this business of identity verification and fraud risk assessment, right? And which is a fascinating area because there are a lot of people that are out there trying to create fraudulent credit cards and try to steal money, basically.
hmm
And you guys are at the 0 day prevention of that.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for asking about that particularly. So Cure is really interesting in what it does. There are a number of players in identity verification and separately players in fraud, but Socure lives at this very unique intersection of um, leveraging AI and machine learning across the widest breadth of data in the market to be able to gain a multi-dimensional view of identity at day zero. So
Mm.
if you are a fintech or a legacy financial institution and you are enrolling hundreds of thousands of new consumers a month on digital channels, you don't get to see them or touch them or see their identity, their credentials in person. You now have a way to know that they are who they say they are and
Hmm.
assess their level of risk in real time. And that's pretty amazing.
Right. So traditionally, you fill out an application and you have to bring all these documents to show who you are before the bank can approve that credit card. But most of the times now, we just do that on the phone. We're so much a phone first kind of generation that how would the bank know who we are, right? So
Exactly.
you're able to help identify and verify that very quickly with very little of that documentation, right?
Exactly. And we're at a really interesting time in financial services where there was this wave of fintechs that came along, neobanks and alternative lenders that onboarded or enrolled consumers in digital channels. And pretty quickly, the legacy banks caught on and realized,
Mm.
wow, we also need to have these digital first services. What we see now are institutions onboarding anywhere from 200,000 to a million brand new consumers a month.
Wow.
And they're under, particularly the fintechs, are under pressure from their investors to enroll as many as they can and continue that growth. So there's this really unique intersection of how do I get as many people in the door as possible and continue growth without introducing brand new fraud risk.
Hmm.
And that's really tough at a time where identity fraud has reached new heights, losses have reached new heights. So we are very much focused on this intersection of unlocking innovation and growth in digital channels and B2C transactions while preventing fraud. And it's a really fun place to be. And it's also a solution that can only be done when you're applying machine learning and AI with data curation. And so that's what we're heavily focused on.
You were actually an industry analyst. And so I was wondering what made you shift from being an analyst to being at Socure.
That's a great question. Thanks for asking it. I think about this often. So, at IDC, which is where I was a payments analyst, and I spent a lot of time researching and speaking about innovation in payments. And often, what innovation in payments means is automated payments.
Mm.
It's mobile payments, those initiated from your device. It's those that use alternative services that are non-banks. What lies at the heart of all of that is identity. The
Mm.
ability to unlock innovation in payments requires you to know who a person is and know their level of fraud risk. And so I got to know Socure in that way. While I was looking at these really innovative payment
Mm.
services, I kept asking them, as you let strangers in, day zero identities, how do you ensure they're safe? How do you know they are who they say they are? What's your level of trust? And very often the answer became Socure. And,
Mm.
and so I started to look this way.
So the technology, the innovation really attracted you to the company.
Indeed.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. I am fascinated with the technology in that it's helping people who maybe just came to America recently and may not have been here using credit cards. So they're really new to this country. How do you then verify their risk level?
It's such a great question, and it's a really integral part of the Socure origin story. So Socure set out in fact, to do two things. One is to help these digital first, these brand new innovative financial services firms do business in a safe way. And the other was to help them do business with non-traditional or underbanked communities. And I think sometimes we refer to them as thin file, and they can be quite diverse. They can be students who are newly out of college. They can be new to country individuals. They could be, a woman getting out of a marriage that didn't build a credit history, right? There's all kinds of folks that fall into this thin file group. What we do when we identify your who you are and your level of risk is we look beyond credit bureau data, which sometimes doesn't exist for you. We look at, have you paid a utility bill? Have you been engaged with a telco? How long have you had your device? What do we know about your digital reputation as a whole? We gain a multi-dimensional view of who you are and your digital risk. And we're able to do this in real time. And it doesn't matter if you don't have a 700 credit score. It's not on our radar.
I see. So in the past, traditional banks would turn away these folks because they just don't know enough about them. Without a credit history.
100%.
But that's because they just have no way of assessing the risk. But now you're enabling them to actually have visibility and assess the risk, and so they can make the business decision instead of just automatically turning these folks away.
Absolutely. And interestingly, one of the things that our fintech customers have learned, and since then our legacy banking customers have also learned, is sometimes those thin file consumers are the best investment, right? If you're newly out of college or you're new to country, you're at the beginning of the road of building your wealth. So why would I want to turn you away, right? I want to bring you in and help you engage in the financial system and build your wealth. And as you do that, offer you more services and gain more revenue and a great relationship with you. And I think we've enabled many fintechs and now many legacy banks to do that.
I want to ask you about the whole go-to-market strategy. You're in charge of marketing. I know you actually have 7 out of the top 10 banks working with you already. So tell us about the challenges that you're seeing and how you address it on the marketing front.
Sure. So people ask me this all the time about our marketing strategy, and I could talk to you about which channels we use and metrics, but I spent some time this week with our founder, Johnny Ayers, who's known in the market very well, and we were talking about our culture at the company. And what we came to, or what he came to really, is that we have built a culture of experts, that Socure has focused very deeply on going to market in a way that says to our customers, what is your problem? What are you experiencing? So identity management and fraud prevention are sophisticated and complex issues. And it requires you to go in and say, hey, what's your problem and how can I help you? And then our data science team has been extremely focused on taking those problems and the data that underlie those problems and creating solutions that fix them. And my marketing strategy is to be technology first and thought leadership first, is to continue to provide content and material that allow our fintech customers, our banking customers, and now customers in other verticals to know that we are building solutions that directly hit their problems and that we're always listening. We're hearing what they're experiencing because, look, fraud changes quickly. It's not a static event, right? And so I am very much about thought leadership first and creating content and engagement that impacts the way they do business every day.
You have more data scientists than sales folks. Is that right?
Totally. We have 25 data scientists and about half that in sales. And as we plan our strategic roadmap, we will continue to invest in exactly that way. We're also a total anomaly. We are a Manhattan-based data science company, very rare. We love that. Our poor head of data science, who I love so much, Pablo, he's like on all of our marketing material. Meet Pablo. He's a famous person now. But yeah, we really have come to understand that not just to solve the problems, but that our go-to-market has to be based on being a data science first and a technology first company. And we've really, really done that. We also do something else unique, which is our sales engagements very often include a POC in which we dig into your data and come back and report to you not just what you're looking for, but other things we've found. And we've never done a POC or maybe once or twice, but almost never done a POC that didn't turn into a customer. It's why we have 250 plus customers at this point. We've experienced 100% year-over-year growth for many years in a row. And it's because we go in, we look for the problem, we help you understand problems you haven't even seen yet, and we are technology first in our problem solving.
Now, do you leverage these data scientists for the many different roles? Like, for example, in being the expert in a webinar, at an event, do you bring them into even as a sales engineer to then talk about the capabilities?
Jessica, that's such a great question. Yes.
They wear many hats.
Yes. No, it's a really great question. So not only do our data scientists wear many hats, but in our customer support and account management teams, we've actually hired separate data scientists as account managers. So oftentimes they are like maybe newly graduated data scientists. Maybe they haven't built their own models yet or led a whole team. So they're looking to learn, and they're working with account managers as hands-on data scientists. And then our data science team, which is busy building product, they are the unfortunate victims of us as a marketing team. So yes, they're on our webinars and they speak at shows, and but I think they like that because they're often asked questions by fraud practitioners in those audiences that are helping them learn, and they're really open to it.
And I guess they also get information to help them build more features or expand and update the technology given what they're hearing since they're interacting with the potential clients.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything they hear from their clients is what helps them look at that data and understand the patterns that ultimately become model parameters and features down the road.
The company's growing. You have 130 people, and you are looking to like double that pretty much, right? So hiring in all departments.
Hiring in all departments. All of us as leaders at Socure spend half of our day interviewing. So tech world, come to us. We're looking in data science and engineering and product and marketing across the board.
You've been in this industry as an analyst now, as head of marketing. What would you say as looking ahead in the next 5-10 years? Where do you see this identification, verification, fraud prevention? Where is this moving? What's going to be the change or the upcoming big deal, in the industry?
Sure. So the most exciting thing for me is to look at the need for identity verification and fraud risk assessment across verticals. So I think in the early days, the sort of obvious choice for us was to work with fintechs and financial services because those are high risk transactions. But we're hearing from telcos and cable companies and streaming media companies and many other verticals who are experiencing fraud, who have gone digital first or digital only. So they have that challenge of needing to constantly ramp enrollment. And it's really exciting for us to be able to help cross-vertical organizations build their business to consumer transaction ecosystem in a safe way. So that's exciting for us. And then the other thing that's occurring is because we've come to know so many consumers and their trust level, we've built a network database of individuals and their risk levels. And eventually what we'll do is to release what we call a Socure ID, or this sort of credential that allows us to know who you are as you move across the internet on a single token linked to your device. And that's the direction we're going in.
Do you see the potential product for the consumer, maybe a landlord looking to verify this candidate? They can go in and put in the name, just a phone number or email?
We're already working in that world. We're working
for the consumer to use.
It's a possibility we could go the route of the consumer choosing to use us. It's something we talk about all the time. It's not currently on our roadmap, but we are already working with those who work on behalf of landlords to sign renters. We're looking at HR and payroll. We work with workforce software to help them identity verify folks. So yeah, and eventually it could be consumer facing.
Yeah, so it seems like everybody needs identification, verification, and risk assessment from the businesses to even the individuals themselves. I want to ask about this synthetic identity fraud. That's a very interesting area that's been growing as a problem. Can you explain that? But I think a lot of people might not understand it.
Yeah, it's sort of the plague that we're all facing at all times. So synthetic identity fraud is this very unique kind of fraud, but unfortunately, it's not so unique anymore because we saw $9 billion in losses, I think, last year. And in synthetic identity fraud, fraudsters pull together shards or elements of other identities, link them all together, create a brand new identity, give it a couple of years to marinate so they begin to do, open up accounts that are non-high risk accounts, but they begin to build a digital reputation around this identity. When it's fully grown as a new identity, they then go and open more high risk accounts such as credit cards and do bust out fraud. So they'll spend thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. And it's very difficult to see at this point because each part of the identity is actually an existing identity, right? And so it doesn't always show up on fraud detection tools. We are able to see it because one of the things we do is to correlate multiple elements of an identity and come up with a risk score. And so when we're looking at each element of the identity, both individually and in relationship to each other, we can see synthetic identity.
Wow. That's so fascinating.
It's really cool and scary.
Yeah. But that's great that your technology is able to detect that.
Yeah.
That's been a great conversation, very educational. I appreciate you sharing on the show, Rivka.
Sure. Thanks for having me. It was really fun being here.
There you have it. Take it up with Jessica Lee, Rivka Little from Socure.